1,700, and so far we're at 392. Every one of those reports could have one piece of evidence that was submitted to this crime lab, or it could have 80 pieces of evidence that was submitted to this crime lab. So this lab is essential in the criminal justice system. State representatives, governor, this money will do nothing but help the victims out there and help law enforcement and the prosecutor's office. With that, I want to thank you and send it right back to you, Governor.
Sure. Thank you very much. Let me ask this. Everybody from the legislature, come up here. We really appreciate it. Come on, you guys. Don't be bashful. You guys are not usually bashful, so this is
Thomas.
this is not a bashful group. Let me mention a couple other things. And one thing the sheriff said is absolutely correct, and it's something that I think that we have to always think about. When there's a delay at a crime lab, that means that there could be a criminal who's out there who's not been caught. And that means that criminal could be committing crimes, and is in all likelihood committing crimes. So delays at crime labs can cost lives. Delays at crime labs can cost, have more victims because of that. So that's why this is important. Everything in the system has to work. Everything has to work together. And it only works together if the crime lab has the resources that they need. Something I've certainly been interested in going back to my time as a county prosecutor, certainly during my time as Attorney General. These crime labs do a phenomenal job. Second thing is Miami Valley Crime Lab, as Dr. Harshberger said, does not just serve Miami Valley. Does not just serve Montgomery County. It serves the entire Miami Valley and even beyond that as far as some of their work. So it's really very, very significant. They do phenomenal work. They have phenomenal people. And so we're happy to be able to help them today with this $1 million grant. Let me mention a couple other things. Other labs receiving $1 million include crime labs in Columbus, Cuyahoga, and Hamilton counties, and our Ohio State Highway Patrol lab. 8 smaller labs are receiving $250,000 each, and the remaining funds also that will go to 3 BCI crime labs, Richfield, London, and Bowling Green. Again, 14 around the state of Ohio. But the largest grant, this is a large grant, and again, it goes to a crime lab that is doing an absolutely phenomenal job. So we appreciate that very much. As we looked at the efforts that we want to make in regard to solving crime, protecting the public from violent offenders, we put a package together. This is part of that package. This is $10 million for the crime labs. Another part is $250 million, which is spread out between over 900 police departments around the state of Ohio, who are now in the process of applying for this money. This money can be used for wellness for police officers, which is becoming a major concern. It can also be used for locally designed programs to deal with violent crime. Again, we believe that the local community, the local sheriff, the local prosecutor, the local chief of police, local officials are the ones to design these programs. They're the ones that know what's going on in their particular area. So again, that is I think probably the largest amount of money ever put forward in the state history for anti-crime effort, but it's money that we think is very, very important and will be very well spent. So let me just open up for the media. If the media has any questions, we can try to take them now, or if anyone wants to do one-on-ones afterwards, we can do that.
Do any of you happen to know the last time the crime lab got a grant of this size?
Probably never of this size is the best answer. The crime lab does facilitate grants, multiple grants, probably in the tune of $800 to $1 million regularly through federal grant programs, mostly centered on DNA processing. We're a regular participant of the Coverdale grant. We use it for education. We do use it mostly for personnel. So the crime labs and crime labs across the country do receive grants regularly. It's how we survive. It's what's kept the door open for years, and our generous commissioner's support. But obviously $1 million coming right when we need it for this kind of efficiency operation, the new instruments. We don't have a capital budget other than what I'm kind enough the commissioners to award us, which is very helpful. But to purchase multiple instruments at one time there's no other option in this. So we really appreciate the governor and the legislature for facilitating this money. Yep.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the delay or the backlog that crime lab currently has? How long does it usually take for a case to get the sample processed?
Sure, it varies. We don't have a huge backlog per se. We keep up fairly well, which is one of the monikers of why, and the sheriff, I believe, thinks he has access to a great crime lab, is we don't really have a lot of backlog. The problem is our workload, as you heard, continues to increase and grow. With COVID, we had quarantining, and so there is a bit of a backlog. It's not necessarily a backlog problem now. It's an efficiency solution. So we don't have a huge backlog. This will help that. But more importantly, we're going to be able to process more samples faster and in a professional manner with robotics, and some of the equipment that's at its end of life will be replaced. So the main thing is it's going to increase our efficiencies going forward in the future, bring us up to some modern technology, i.e. rapid DNA processors that we're going to purchase. So we don't have much of a backlog, but what we do have will this will help fix it. Yeah.
And look, the goal is not to have a backlog. I mean, the goal, you don't want to get in that position. When you get in that position, you're just catching up. And so, I don't know, Doctor, but my guess is you've never done as much work as you're doing today.
That's correct.
So, I mean, the work continues to go up like that. And you might talk for a moment. You were telling me, though, about, because I think people would be interested, what you're doing here that is unique, and that you're covering, besides the typical crime lab work, which covers the Miami Valley, you're also doing other work that's covering other jurisdictions.
Yes, sir. So we're the only certified drug forensic assault, toxicology, drug facilitated sexual assault laboratory. We cover about 66% of the state through our toxicology lab, depending on what Licking County is doing, through the coroner's office side. So we're working now to be the first lab to do edible marijuana processing, quantification with the hemp differentiation. So all those things keep us cutting edge. We talked about how our instrumentation and chemistry can process about 3 samples an hour. With this, we hope to get to 5 or 6 samples an hour, essentially doubling our capacity with this grant money. So those are the kind of things in the state that we're unique at. Particularly our DNA section handles a lot of touch DNA samples, so very small quantities of DNA. That's what we consider ourselves unique and experts at. So that's only going to improve in our efficiencies with this grant.
Yeah. Great work. Great work. Who else? Anybody else? You see, the doctor and I keep going back and forth.
How much specifically for this regional crime lab, the money, the grants amount will be?
$1 million. $1 million for this grant.
Sheriff Struck, we're always talking about the rise in violent crime in the area. We're heading into the summer months where we know crime rises there too. Can you just talk about the timing of this and why that's really important?
Yeah, once again, when we have a violent crime, whether it's a homicide, whether it's a felonious assault, whether it involves firearms, knives, just blunt objects, DNA has now become such an important part of that. Every firearm that we take off the streets, and I can tell you right now, my property room is busting at the seams. We're to the point where we're almost in panic mode. We are taking so many firearms off the streets. When you add all that with all the drug issues that we still continue to have, being able to process those kind of items quicker will do nothing but aid law enforcement in trying to get some of these individuals off the street. Some of our crimes have lowered, but unfortunately it's those violent crimes that have not lowered, and we just seem to keep having more and more. So being able to process those items so that if we do have an individual out there doing this, that they can't go to another area and do the same thing. It's just, like I said, it's a great thing for this crime lab, and it's a great thing for local law enforcement.
Very much, sure. Andy, you want to come up here and tell them follow up what the sheriff said, because we have already announced a program, particularly for smaller departments, in regard to guns. And this is very, very important. We're talking about violent crime. We're talking about the summer coming. We're being hit in our major cities with a lot of violent crime, and being able to take guns Particularly the smaller departments, mid-sized departments, the Springfields, the Limas, Mansfields, to be able to take those guns and enter them into the statewide database, national database, is very, very important, because what it does is it impacts someone goes to buy a gun. That gun should be already entered in there. That information should be in there. Andy, you want to give me your name?
Yes. My name's Andy Wilson, W-I-L-S-O-N. My title is Senior Advisor for Criminal Justice Policy for the Governor. And what the Governor and the Sheriff are talking about is an incredibly useful tool for local law enforcement agencies, and that's the NIBIN system. It's the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. The Governor, as part of the $250 million that the General Assembly set forth to fight crime in this state, the Governor had an initiative with the Attorney General that he announced maybe a month ago to really increase the capacity of local agencies to do some of this NIBIN testing. So the way it works, it's really kind of a database that agencies can bring recovered firearms or shell casings from a scene, and they can enter that information in, and it provides linkage. And what you'll find, I used to be the prosecutor of Clark County. What you'll find is a gun that's used in a homicide here in Dayton. You know, the detectives will be out there, they'll pick up shell casings, but that gun was taken from the scene. Let's say it was a drive-by or something like that. Well, let's say that gun is then traded off to a suspect's cousin. You know, they have a suspect, but they don't really have that link that they need to prove the case. That suspect then gets picked up in Clark County on a traffic ticket, and they find the gun, it's an illegally carried gun, and they seize that gun. Well, it's imperative for the law enforcement officers in Clark County to be able to enter that gun or the information from that gun into the system in a timely fashion. And what you would find in that situation is that gun would be linked to the homicide, and it's a tool that local agencies are able to use to put these cases together and really kind of get that, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, that smoking gun that they need to move the case forward. And listen to the sheriff talk about how his property room is just swelling with the number of guns. Once those guns are entered into the NIBIN system and other agencies are entering their shell casings, you're going to find all kinds of hits that are going to lead to crucial evidence that are going to solve these cases. And the important part is that allow the sheriff and his detectives to get the people who are willing to use these guns to commit crimes off the street. You've got to get the shooters off the street. And the governor has been dedicated about that. You know, the governor goes all over the state talking about how it's a small number of incredibly violent individuals who are disproportionately causing gun crime in our communities. And the governor is dedicated to getting agencies the tools they need to get that small number of extremely violent criminals off the street. And with the support from the General Assembly, which has been amazing, this grant program that we have out right now is designed to do that. So thank you.
Thanks, Andy, very much. Anything else?
Governor, you asked this, how Democrats come out with a statement this morning saying that this...
It's the season, isn't it? It's the season, yes. What's this morning?
Came from American Rescue Plan that you opposed, and now you're trying to take credit for...
Look, our obligation is to take this money and spend it the best way we can for the people of the state of Ohio. That's what we're doing, and we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to work with local officials to determine how that money should be best spent. So thank you very much.
Do you have a chance for one of the commissioners to speak?
Yeah, that'd be great. Let me thank the county commissioners because again, we have more discussions to take place about this crime lab. But let me just thank them because they have supported this crime lab, and this crime lab does a phenomenal job, absolutely phenomenal job, and it is important. Not just, again, I want to say this, not just for Montgomery County. It is important for this region, and so they have been. We're in discussions with them about some future things, but they've been just phenomenal. So let me invite them up. Come on up. Whoever. Are you the spokesperson?
I just want to say thank you, though, Governor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Actually, I would like to just thank you on behalf of us as county commissioners and each of the county commissioners in the counties where this money is going. I won't repeat all the great good that this will do, but we believe we have an outstanding law enforcement here.
Yeah.
We have an outstanding coroner and crime lab, and we know that when we get additional monies for the investments, it's going to make us only better, faster, more effective that not only are we getting people off the streets, but our community is safer. And that means the most to I believe everyone in this room. So the bottom line is that this is really going to deliver for our citizens, and for that we're forever grateful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you all very much. Thanks. Thank you.
I can tell you're getting a little better, aren't you?
Oh, really?
You mean weight?
Yeah.
No.
You're not?
I've gained 40 pounds.
Hey, good to see you, buddy. Yeah.
We're going to get a group photo for everybody.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Of course. They keep pointing at him when he's still
Oh, yeah. The more I used to take in, I'd see his body stand up. You get a yeet saw going through. Oh, it's nasty.
Yeah, I don't even.